All right, folks, welcome in to Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends over at Superbook Sports. I'm your host, Ryan Blackburn, at NBA Blackburn on Twitter, part of the Mile High Sports Podcast Network, and I am very excited to be back with my guy as we took a little bit of a break over this last week. I was in Los Angeles. I wanted to be able to enjoy that just a little bit, but we had a great time, and both of us got to really enjoy this last sweep and then get a little bit of time off here as we're trying to get back into the flow of the finals. But we've got plenty to discuss with my guy SwipaCam. This is Weekends with Swipa. If you're new to this, Swipa and I go live every weekend and try to go live every single weekend of the season, as there's just so much to talk about between this Nuggets team and then the NBA and all of the things in between. And now we've got the Nuggets in the freaking finals, man. Like, how crazy is that? How are you, my friend?
Man, I'm living, bro. It's been a really good week. It's been a great playoff run, and I think that Nuggets Nation, the city of Denver, the state of Colorado, the United States, Serbia, all of our international fans and supporters from all across the world, I think everybody is excited. And you know what's so dope about this, Ryan? I think people are excited about making it to the finals, but I think everybody knows that this team realistically has higher expectations than even making the finals. Like, it's to win. And I feel that from the overall viewpoint of the audience and from the public at large, man. I think, everybody's just like, this team is good enough. You got the best player in the series. And apparently, you might have the second best player in every series you're in from now on, too. So I think everybody's is ready to go for the next round.
It's fun, man. Like, this is just a fun time for Denver right now, where Nuggets fans have never been able to experience this before. Nuggets fans have been building for this moment for a long time. And it does really feel like this is the culmination of like 5 years of, hey, Denver's been close. They've been one of those teams that's on the fringes of the conversation for a while. They've had a player that has developed into the best player in the league. And it's so funny, like, how that conversation has shifted, because we're just talking before this. Like, there are folks that didn't have him in their top 5 before the playoffs, and now that we've seen what's actually happening, like, oh yeah, he's definitely the best player in the world now. Like, that's just how it is.
Right. Let me tell you, bro. So, y'all know I have a day job, and this has been consistent. So I work full shifts, Ryan, during the day. I then come home after doing all this writing about completely different stuff, right? So I'm at work yesterday. We're like doing this content vision casting thing. Obviously, my mind is focused on Nuggets basketball, NBA Finals. And there's a couple people that know that I do things I do with this. And, bro, there's somebody that walked up to me. One is a Lakers fan, said, bro, y'all got us out there in 4. I couldn't believe that. I was like, man, that's crazy, right? And then another person that is a casual basketball observer, she literally said to me, verbatim, I had heard about Jokic. Like, I knew he had won his MVPs. I kind of questioned them. Like, is this guy really that good? But I watched him play versus the Lakers, and I was like, oh, my goodness. Like, this dude is spectacular. And it's so funny because, like, literally what we were talking about, the casual people, they just hadn't had a chance to – and it's not their fault. Like, they're not basketball junkies. But they literally said, I haven't seen him play at a high level. And I watched him play versus LeBron and the Lakers, and I was floored by how good he was, how smart he is. And so it's so funny now watching the world at large being forced to watch them, and they're like, bro, like, they're actually really good. So it's just so funny to hear.
No, it's hilarious, man. And we're going to talk about plenty of that, especially with kind of the state of Nuggets coverage in the second segment. But I really do want to focus in on just the journey to this point. And I talked about this a little bit on a podcast earlier this week in terms of some of the moments that Denver has had where I could sense, like, boots on the ground, that, like, hey, you are legit. You are who you say you are. And you're going to be able to follow through on a lot of these things. But there was no doubt in my mind that Jokic was going to be able to get to this point. And I think it comes from just watching. It comes from just watching him and being able to see him day in, day out, and knowing, like, hey, this is the progression of a player like this. And what the capabilities are, what the mentality is, what the skill set does. And I think, like you talked about, a lot of people just didn't appreciate that. And we're going to talk about in the second segment, probably to no fault of their own. Like, if we're being honest, like that's just like how the world works and how the NBA has really screwed themselves on this guy. But they're trying to make up for it. There's no doubt in my mind. They're trying to. I've seen so much Nuggets coverage over the course of this week, and deservedly so. Like, this is a team that deserves all of the numbers, all the takes, all of the stuff. And I'm just very happy to see this group be able to bask in that, even if that may not be their actual full-on goal.
Right. Yeah, well, Ryan, let's be honest here, okay? The biggest story with the Nuggets is not the finals run. It's the fact that nobody can watch the games, Ryan. So, we had a very specific conversation with someone that we'll get to later that, 92% of people in Colorado are not able to watch the game. So, it's been a great week. It's been a great week all around because I think the Vindication, Ryan, we'll get to this, but you have been, all the Jamal Murray takes you had, as hot as they were, they may not have been hot enough because
I kept trying to tell people, my guy.
We went into the series when we did the Denver show, and we talked about the idea of Jamal Murray, being the fourth best player in the Lakers series. Ended up being maybe the second, at the worst, the third behind LeBron. So hey, it's been a really good week for you individually,
dude. It's awesome to be able to see this because like I knew that when the timing that I really first latched onto Jamal was back in like 2019, 2020.
Yeah.
Where he signed that contract. And I've talked about this on previous shows, but like when he actually signed that big extension, there was a lot of criticism from people.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of criticism for people that he got the same contract as Ben Simmons, mind you. Like, right. Those guys got the same contract, and people were like, what's Jamal Murray getting this contract for? I should have been asking the other question, but there's a lot there. And I wrote about the duo, and I wrote about Kobe and Shaq, and I still maintain that is the best like anagram for who they are in terms of you have this young, dynamic scoring guard trying to learn how to play with this amazingly talented interior force. And those guys, it didn't like fully manifest in the way like those guys like had 3 championship runs. And like there's a lot there, but it also wasn't like, it wasn't initially when those guys got together. It took them time. It took them time to develop. It wasn't perfect. And to see them be able to develop that has been really, really cool.
Ooh, question for you, my brother. Question for you. Put on your basketball historian cap. If they win a championship, which is if Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic, is that the best international 2-man game in NBA history?
Ooh.
Could you have Nash and Dirk in Dallas?
That was the first one that came to mind. Tony Parker and Tim Duncan still comes to mind. Manu Ginobili and Tim Duncan still comes to mind in terms of, hey, both of those, one is French, one is Argentine. And so like that would be where my mind first goes. But I think they have an argument because like so much of Jamal, it's not about the all-star appearances, which he has 0 right now. It's about what he raises his game to when the moments matter most. And obviously his growth has been stunted a little bit, and he still has plenty of time to make all-star appearances. Like, I have a feeling that if things go Denver's way, then there is plenty of opportunity.
He just averaged 32.5 points per game on 50, 40, 90 in a Western Conference final. And you think that people are going to remember that when it comes to all-star voting next year?
It's so funny. Like I will never get over the fact that they had devoted Mike Conley for his advanced analytic numbers as the 3rd member of the Utah Jazz that year.
Was that the Dirk? Was that the Dirk knock? Dirk got it the year before. It was like the legacy all-star.
That one was in addition to the other guys, but like it's like, come on, man, celebrate your young stars. This was a great opportunity before.
Did they have 3? Did Utah have Donovan, Rudy, and Conley that year?
Correct.
So wait a minute. They got 3 for that team?
Yes. I know. It was super frustrating to me because Murray's numbers in my humble opinion, were better. They just didn't have the benefit of the advanced analytics behind it. And like, as somebody who is a stats guy, like, I understand that, but also like Utah just had a formula that worked for them in the regular season that clearly didn't work in the playoffs. And we all knew that. So we knew that Denver, which had gone up against Utah in the previous freaking season, was perfectly geared to be able to defeat a team like that. Like, with that duo, it was like he averaged 31 against them in the bubble. Like what are we doing? So it was just very frustrating. But like, point aside, I think it's a very fair point. It's a very fair take that, like, if like you could have Jokic and Murray and pit them up against any duo in NBA history, and they're going to at least have an argument. But now, like with the international guys specifically, like Canada, Serbia, like there's some love there. There's some stuff there that I think you could really make an argument for.
Yeah, I'm trying to think because Tony. Look, I love Tony Parker, but Tony Parker didn't have the scoring ceiling, or even I don't think he had the scoring. Like, he just didn't have the the ceiling that Jamal was able to get to.
What about the it factor, as Gilbert Arenas would say?
Exactly. Like, he didn't have the it factor, the him factor. Now, Tony was great when Tony was in transition. That little spin move he did. As a matter of fact, the person that reminds me of Tony now is actually Tyrese Maxey, when he just gets going full speed down the court and his ability to get to the rim at will. So I think Tony and Duncan for sure. But man, I'm just telling you right now, just like for player at their apex, which is not even their apex, but Jamal just turned 26 years old. I don't know, man. Like, I think they could go on a special run. I really do.
There's no doubt in my mind. I remember back to December 8th was the day that I think the season turned for Denver in my mind, was where Jamal hits that game winner. I had the opportunity to write a profile on Jamal before then, like that day. And he was talked about his mental. He talked about how it was really difficult for him at that point to do the things that he used to do. And then he hits that game-winning shot, and I think it was like a big sigh of relief for him, but also for everybody on the team, where they're like, okay, we see the vision now. We see what you're doing. We know what you're capable of. And that really, I think, set the tone for the rest of the season. And they went on a big run after that. So it was really cool to see.
Over Jeremy Grant, nonetheless.
Oh my God. Like, can you imagine being Jeremy Grant? Like, it can't be that bad. Like, he's going to get freaking paid this summer, but like, if that's what he wants, that's what he wants. But,
well, to be fair, they were the number one seed at a point in time during the season.
The Blazers?
Yeah, remember they were number one, and then remember Anthony Simons had how many points did he have? He was 7 of 7, I think, from 3 in the third quarter versus the Nuggets that one game.
That's right. Holy shit! That was like the 5th game of the season or something.
Their defense. So remember, they were number one because they had like a top 5 defense, because they were running zone. Yeah. Man, they were doing really gimmicky. Yeah. But obviously, everybody was like, "Yeah, I don't think this is gonna last at all." And then they literally went whoop, and then
As it turns out, it's really hard to defend like that for an entire season when teams actually start to try. So that's like October and November basketball, not emblematic of the NBA. March and April basketball, not emblematic of the NBA. The Nuggets are the best possible example of that, I think. So
yeah, that's when the Nuggets had the 28th ranked defense in the NBA. I think at a point in December, and then everything turned on its heel.
I love it. Real quick, I want to go over this before we hit a break. Sweetest moments of the playoff run so far. What comes to mind for you when you think about the Wolves, the Suns, the Lakers? Is there a singular moment when you were like, okay, this is the sweetest possible thing for Nuggets Nation?
Yeah, I'm gonna rank them. Number one, for sure, is sweeping the Los Angeles Lakers with LeBron James and Anthony Davis on the court, and then watching Jamal Murray have an argument as the second best player in that series and playing so well, people were questioning if he should have been the Magic Johnson Western Conference Finals most valuable player. That's how good he played.
He was so, like, 32, 5 and 5 or whatever the number was on 50, 40, 90 is freaking nuts.
Right. And then he shot 95% from the free throw line. And again, that's such a weapon to have on your roster, to have a player that can get to the line and that elite. So the Lakers for sure. And I think the fact that all this tied into that, the fact that the conversation going into that series was that Anthony Davis is not DeAndre Ayton. Anthony Davis is not Rudy Gobert. Jokic isn't going to do crazy on him. Then, 28, 14, and 10, 11, basically. Yeah. And he shot. Yeah, it's just the way it all played out. Like, if you want an inside scoring, the spectacular shooting, the shot making, all that stuff. That's number one. Number two for me, Ryan, is – well, actually, I want to hear your number one. What's your number one?
I think it's that. I think it's honestly it's probably the Jokic shot. Like, just the crazy Jokic shot in Game 4. That's when I knew they weren't going to lose. Like, you're just not going to if that is how this is going to go. You've got a player that's rising to the occasion like that, that's doing some crazy stuff right now. And it's not abnormal for him to do that. Nuggets fans know that. Nuggets fans have seen that all the time. But for him to do that on the biggest possible stage and to break the hearts of Los Angeles fans, oh, so sweet. so sweet.
Yeah, I think the crowd reaction from that I've watched, I can't tell you how many times. Just people coming to the realization, he did it in Game 1. Everybody's like, nah, that's luck. Then he did it in Game 4 against LeBron in the first half, and he does a double step back, moon heave, 80 feet into the air, and then it drops straight into the basket, and then all of LA is just like, bruh, no way he could do this again. And then all of a sudden, right wing, dribbles, step back, one leg, yank. And I was just like, oh my gosh, bro, this man is money, bro.
He's doing crazy stuff. And it's really cool to see him dip into his bag right now, because there are so many things that he can go to, and his bag it's among the deepest in the league from a scoring perspective, and people just haven't seen it before. So really, really cool to see. I think what's a good next one? You can't have Jokic's 53 or the 43 that he had in the first or second round, because they came in losses, although those are great moments, awesome moments. Probably Game 6 of the Suns series, if I'm being honest, is the next one. Yeah. Just being able to run them off their home floor and be up by 30 on the Suns, and the Suns being down by 30 in back-to-back years in an elimination game is hilarious. That was really cool, and it was vindicating to be able to destroy that demon once and for all.
Yeah, second for me, bro, is the fact that you went into the Suns series, and people that I love and respect. Suns in 5. Nuggets can't stop their pick and roll. Devin Booker, KD getting to their spot, shooting over the Nuggets. Jokic, no spacing, they can't stay in front, all this other stuff. Drop coverage? No way. Yeah. And then the best highlight of that is Aaron Gordon holding Kevin Durant to sub 40% shooting when matched up in isolation. That was just beautiful, because he brought him in here for that, and he was able to give KD the business. And then they end up winning that 4-2. And again, if Devin Booker doesn't shoot 80% over a 2-game stretch, they don't win either of those games. So just a masterclass by the Denver Nuggets in that series.
The other one that I've got to mention, and this will probably be my last one, is back in that Wolves series. There were definitely times where the Nuggets were down, where they weren't feeling it. And then Michael Porter stepped up. Michael Porter was the guy that in the fourth quarter, it was Michael Porter time. And how often have we actually really said that before? Because most of the time I was talking about this for the majority of this season. Denver's usage, they were going heavy Jokic, heavy Murray, and then Porter and KCP were at one point in the regular season, we're at 6 and 7% usage, during clutch time. And I was like, okay, so this is just not something that they do. And then they started looking for Porter. And then when Porter was on the floor without Jokic or Murray at the beginning of the fourth quarter in Game 2 with Denver down, personal 8-0 run by himself to be able to put them back up, and they never really looked back after that. It's moments like that where you see the growth in Michael Porter, as well as the defense. The defense has been a constant, which is really cool to say. I never thought I'd say that before. But his ability to go on these personal runs and really take over in those moments, that to me is just that's some vindication for sure.
Who's not been the worst defender on the Denver Nuggets in the starting 5? Not Michael Porter Jr. Yeah. I mean, Jamal Murray's been the worst, but that's just because of his size. They have no choice but to hunt him.
Also, somebody has to be the worst. Like it's more of a, I think it's more of a credit to the rest of the team. Like Denver doesn't
Right.
really have that many weak points right now. And like, I think
Right.
Jokic and Murray are probably their biggest weak points, but the fact that Porter's not, that's crazy. That's a crazy thing to say. Who would have said that before the season?
Right. And then 2 years ago versus the Suns, barely stay on the court. And then literally, if he's been isolated this year versus Anthony Edwards, Karl Anthony Towns, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, LeBron, AD. Now LeBron got him because he's 270 pounds and he's the strongest wing ever. So yeah, for sure. But Porter, man, and his rebounding, Ryan, been incredible. Joel Rush posted from Forbes. He posted a little tweet with all of his like kind of rebounding compilation in there. And you just don't like, it's so underappreciated the fact that Porter is such a good offensive and defensive rebounder. And the fact that he's such an elite floor spacer next to the, like he leads, I think he leads, he's second in the team in net rating during the playoff run. Aaron Gordon's 1, Porter's 2, Jokic is 3. And again, it's not an accident. I think Porter, is he leading the entire playoffs in plus minus right now, I think?
Let me check on it. Let me give you that number. Total plus minus. Jokic is at the top at plus 130. Michael Porter's next at plus 128.
Like Michael Porter.
Yeah.
Like the cone on defense.
Here's the thing. Jokic is 130. Porter is 128. Gordon's 126. Murray's 126. And then Caleb Martin is 5th at 89. Like there's a drop off. Just like the regular season, which turns out that actually is pretty predictive in terms of how this thing is going to go.
Remember when people were using the, Jokic was a negative 130, negative 31 leading into this playoff, leading into this season. They said, not a playoff rider. Look, he's a negative on the court. It's like, bro, I really don't think there needs to be a documentary done talking about what Jokic had to deal with in the playoffs the last 2 years. Yeah. And then you can compare what he did next to anybody else in NBA history and say, who do you actually think would have done better in that spot?
He lost to Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Jordan Poole on their way to a freaking title. Right. Lost to Chris Paul and Devin Booker when Chris Paul was actually good. Back with 2021, and then just like without like even Jamal Murray and like a whole bunch of guys that probably could have been really helpful in that series. And then like the tides have just completely turned, man. It's been really, really cool to see. And like that's honestly the most sweet thing about this is that everybody is either eating crow or feeling vindication right now. And there's it's either one of those two things. You cannot feel something else. You cannot just ignore what's going on in Denver right now. And that's just a very cool thing to say. Also, make sure to shout out Bruce Brown, who I think has been fantastic this entire playoff run and deserves that dude's going to get paid, and it's probably not by Denver, but like it's going to be. We're going to see how it goes.
Let me ask you this for you. Well, actually, I can ask you on the other side of the break too, but I wanted to ask you a question about Bruce Brown.
Sure. Yeah. Let's do it on the other side. When we come back, folks, we're going to talk about Bruce, and then we'll talk about the state of Nuggets coverage and what that's actually meant of late. But first, this podcast is brought to you by our good friends over at Superbook. Everybody, thank you so much to Superbook for sponsoring this pod. They make sure to bring that big bet energy this summer. They're the most trusted name in sports betting. And right now you can use promo code MILEHIGH to score up to $250 with their first bet bonus. Win or lose, they will match your first bet up to $250 with promo code MILEHIGH. Just make sure to download the Superbook Sports app now and use that promo code, and you can get $250 courtesy of Superbook Sports. Gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. We will be right back on Pickaxe and Roll. And we're back. Pickaxe and Roll, Ryan Blackburn here. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Joined by SwipaCam on this Weekends with Swipa episode. We're doing great stuff. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out in the chats. Make sure to give this a like if you're watching on whether it's SwipaCam's channel or the Mile High Sports channel. Make sure to drop a like, and we can just continue to grow this bad boy from here. Take advantage of this finals run. Like, why not? So let's talk about Bruce Brown real quick. You said you had a question about Bruce.
So here's the thing. The approximation for Bruce Brown that I've been thinking about, should he choose to want to operate in this role, Bruce Brown has an opportunity, I think, to be the Sean Livingston of the Denver Nuggets the Manu Ginobili, not as good, obviously, of the Denver Nuggets. And I think the Andre Iguodala as well. Because, you know, the Warriors really had two of those players that were just like dynamite bench players. Like everyone in the league coveted it. If Bruce Brown, I don't know, maybe he decides that like he's like, bro, like I'm gonna get paid, but I also want to be a part of a real like a championship level core for the next several years. Do you see Bruce Brown as one of those types of players that like makes that kind of like dynastic impact, possibly like around star level players?
It's a good question. Like we've seen what he can do next to Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving and James Harden and guys like that. How he can riff off of what those guys do and find a value in that. And then we've seen what he can do here in Denver with Jokic, Murray, MPJ, really adding to the product of what they're doing. You know, here's a number that I pulled for an article that I posted today on lineup data. Bruce Brown joining Jokic, Murray, and Porter this year in the playoffs. A 140 offensive rating. 140. Like, that's stupid. And it's not what you would expect, right? You would expect the guy like KCP, somebody who's a floor spacer, somebody who also runs the floor, to have at least a little bit of that. But what Bruce Brown has been able to do, he's just so technically savvy with operating around those guys and giving them the space, but also taking over and being like showing that he can drive and showing that he can handle a little bit has been really, really helpful and really, really cool. I don't know if that's going to be what he wants to continue to do. Like if he might still want to continue to grow, and it wouldn't surprise me. I'm going to look up how old is Bruce Brown right now?
25.
25 right now.
I don't know if he's turned 26 yet, but I know he for sure started the year 25.
Started the year 25. He's currently 26. He's
he just turned his birthday.
Same age as me. Yeah, it just would not surprise me at all if he was like, okay, let me try to capitalize on this and continue to grow into what I believe to be as a starting player, a starting caliber player, somebody who can make starter caliber money in the NBA. And like, this might be his best possible opportunity on the biggest and brightest stage to actually do that. So I don't know if that's where it's ultimately going to go, but it does feel to me like, I mean, he's the perfect player to have on this Nuggets roster. And I've kind of underappreciated that during the regular season without really knowing what he was going to do stepping up in the playoffs.
Right. Yeah, you know, I knew he was really good with the Nets, but I think the thing he brought is just a relentless tenacity. He's an incredible defender, like an incredible defender. He is a great post guard. It's so funny. But the thing that he does, his ability to put pressure on the rim, it cannot be overstated. To have a guard that is your literal fifth option or sixth option, be able to go from one end of the court with the ball, get to the basket, or be an off-ball rim threat player, there's just nothing that you can put on in terms of like communication-wise to overstate how important it is. That at all times, you got Murray who can get to the rim, Bruce who can get to the rim, Porter who's shown the ability, and then Jokic who has all-time rim pressure himself, plus Aaron Gordon. It presents so many difficulties, which is why that 140 offensive rating makes sense, just because you could just attack from anywhere, and Bruce is also a good rebounder. So they're like them in transition when Jokic had Murray, MPJ, and Bruce and Gordon on the court. Yeah, bro, like you got two great spot-up shooters, and you got two elite rim runners.
This year in the playoffs, here are Bruce Brown's averages. 12.2 points, 3.9 rebounds, 2.2 assists, 1.1 steals. Okay, that's fine. That's nothing like crazy, but it's on 26 minutes a night, 53% from the field. He's only shooting 28.9% from three, but it feels like more than that. And 63% from two, but he's shooting 89.5% from the free throw line. Just been super locked in on both ends of the floor in terms of like, hey, how is this going to work? How am I going to do this? And the key, like you talked about here, 56% on drives, 56%, 23 of 41 in these playoffs so far. And he doesn't always get the opportunities to do that, but when he's had that, he's been able to do it. What I will say is like that lack of 3-point shots still, like it's kind of manifested a little bit in the playoffs where he's taking them selectively, probably not taking them not as like an off the dribble kind of shooter or scorer or anything like that. And I do think that like limits his ability to be a starter, in my opinion. But like he still fits in as like a 25 to 30 minute per game guy because you need players like that.
Can you look at what he's shooting above the break? Because I know in the left corner he's shooting like 15 to 19%, but I think he's shooting like over 45. I think from the right corner, but I think the above the break should be around average. Maybe I'm not really sure because I think some of that goes into his shot profile, why he's being dragged down so much so far in the playoffs and in the regular season.
Above the break, Bruce Brown is at 36% from three this year, 18% from the corners, 18%. He's at 0% from the left corner and 28.6 from the right. What a fun player.
He is such an anomaly, bro. I can't believe that. That is hilarious.
You would think that a guy like hey, you have time to spot up in the corners. You can camp out there a little bit. You know that the ball's eventually going to find you. But he's been so good on the wings and like above the break. It's just been – how funny is that? Like just such a unique player. Like, hey, dude, keep shooting your high field goal percentage above the break, and it ain't gonna matter at all. Like,
well, again, maybe if he just eliminates corner threes, I don't know if he will, but again, maybe just that one side. But again, if you're shooting 36% from above the break, I mean, you're a league average to just a slightly above league average 3-point shooter, which I think can work. I don't think Bruce needs to be a high usage player though, so I think he needs to be in a starting role. That would be. But again, if Bruce goes out and wins the championship as the best sixth man in the playoff, fine. Like, I support my brother's dreams and whatever he wants to do with the rest of his career.
No, like I mean, he's earned this. This was
Right.
This was what he came in to do. It was to play with Jokic. It was to get paid. It was to help them win. And right now, like he's gonna do hopefully all of those. And like it just makes a lot of sense for him to kind of capitalize on this moment. But we will see what it ultimately looks like and what he can ultimately do. But I do want to transition back. I talked about this a little bit a couple podcasts ago, and just basically my stance was it makes financial sense for what Chris Mannix to say be actually true, but it doesn't make it morally or ethically correct for how national media has really approached the Denver Nuggets.
Mm-hmm.
You're supposed to be genuine with your coverage. You are supposed to be consistent with your coverage. And for those that don't know, Chris Mannix went on, was it the Dan Patrick pod? Was it his pod? I don't know. But like,
so he was on Dan Patrick, but he also was on the Rich Eisen show as well. The Rich Eisen show was where he had those comments.
Yeah. So basically what he said was the reason why people don't talk about the Nuggets, the reason why people don't talk about Denver, it wasn't as much about the financial aspect. It was that they weren't compelling. It was that they weren't interesting. Jokic, amazing player, not very interesting. Murray, like really showed up in these playoffs, not very interesting. Porter, not very interesting. And it got Nuggets fans all hot and bothered for obvious reasons, because I think if you wanted to say that it was the reason why you're not talking about them is it doesn't make financial sense to talk about them, Nuggets fans can at least understand that. Like, okay, you're going to try to pad the pockets. That's just how business works. But if you're actually like not doing the work to figure out whether a team is interesting or not, that's stupid. That's like there's clearly stories here that people have missed, and there's stories that you and I have talked about, and why we have large programs here locally.
Right. So here's the thing, right? We'll just have an honest conversation about this. Chris Mannix is highlighted, who I actually really enjoy his basketball talks. Like, I think he's very intelligent, very well versed on the NBA. But the issue here is that Chris Mannix, like many others, has a clear coastal bias because those LA, Golden State, Knicks, Nets, Boston, even Philly, those are the cash cows of the NBA. Those are where you get the most eyes. They have the most populated cities. And again, from a drama standpoint, they all have some kind of drama going on. And so you can maximize that and get clicks, get views, you get likes, you get shares, which means you get more money. So the more engagement you get, the better. So when he was saying not compelling or interesting, well, all he means to say is that the best basketball team in the NBA doesn't have drama. the best basketball team in the NBA isn't located on the coast. So you have to manufacture basketball stories with the Nuggets, but that then takes what you said, investigation, time, and effort. And Chris Mannix has not put in the investigation, the time, nor the effort to tell the story of the Denver Nuggets. Because, Ryan, if you're telling me that a two-time MVP who's on his way to win 3, easily he could have just covered the month of March as a story. How did Jokic not win the MVP? Oh, it all started on March 3rd and then descended into this Kendrick Perkins, this stat padding, this white voters, and build a whole story. I could tell that story any day of the week. Jamal Murray, you come back from an ACL injury and you average 32.5 points per game in the Western Conference Finals the first year you're back. Let's do a deep dive into that. Michael Porter Jr., 3 back surgeries, formerly one of the 1 or 3 best players in the entire high school landscape, Gatorade Player of the Year, completely redefines his game, no longer a cone on defense. You're the 3rd best player on a team in the finals, and you're 24 years old. Aaron Gordon leaves to Orlando Magic, used to be a number 1 option, ill fit. Now he's the number 4 option with the Denver Nuggets. KCP, Bruce, Michael Malone, son of a coach. There are so many levels to this, so many. But if you don't want to put in the effort and you don't want to actually learn about the product you're watching, because this is not the Kim Kardashian show, and you don't want to talk about, well, if LeBron James can retire, and this is my thing about this, Ryan. Literally, as soon as the Nuggets got done playing, once LeBron James made those retirement comments, or at least hinted at he was thinking about it, the narrative was dead. It was no longer about the Nuggets. Ryan, I have watched Undisputed and First Take. They haven't done a real segment on the Denver Nuggets in the last 2 days. Because for them, there's nothing to talk about. And I think that's the part of it. It's just like, if you can't rely on telling good basketball stories, then you need to do a revamp of what you're actually doing in media, because that's your job. So, I was very just like bothered as a content creator, somebody who watches. Again, right, if you asked about the Orlando Magic, I could give you a breakdown of the Orlando Magic right now.
Sure.
But that's my job. Like, I'm supposed to be able to do that. So, I just thought it was really disappointing.
No, and here's what I will say. I do want to give credit to ESPN over the course of this last week. Yeah, I do think that their coverage of the Nuggets has been exceptional over this last week. And that has really turned into like some of the videos that I've watched from the content teams there, whether it's them compiling every star talking about Jokic and how great he is, whether there was a 12-minute video that I watched that included that, but also included great discussions with even Kendrick Perkins and Austin Rivers and Jalen Rose about, hey, this is how they actually get the job done. This is what they're doing on the court. And there's a lot of that. And I think Ramona Shelburne's talk about Jokic's body transformation is really important. That's a lot of people talk about him as a fat white kid. That's just how they're talking about him, but that's not who he is anymore. Or at least it's part of his story, but it's not the whole thing. And so there's a lot that they have covered of late that I think deserves credit, and you deserve credit for that. But you're also late to the party. And you're also you're catching up. You're trying to save face a little bit because you hadn't been doing this for the entire season, despite the fact that the Nuggets had been painting it on a billboard that this was going to happen. There was plenty of discussion.
And then they went into multiple series, Ryan. Please elaborate. They went into multiple series where people were saying that they just weren't the best team. They didn't have the best player, like the Suns series and even the Lakers. But even the response during the Lakers series was all pro Lakers. The Lakers got the Rui Hachimura adjustment. Yeah. Man, I wouldn't feel great if I was the Nuggets. You won the game, but did you really win the game? And then game 2, they're down 10, and then they end up coming back to Jamal Murray. Is he really going to do that again? Do you feel good about being up 2-0, and then you get up 3-0? But hey, the Lakers, but you know what? They got LeBron James. They can do it. They can get this, and this done. And then after the game, you sweep them. But I love also another guy I really respect, Brian Windhorst. That was one of the closest sweeps I've ever seen. But it's just we just keep coming back to the well.
It's also very frustrating that LeBron fake retiring narrative popped up to distract from the sweep. That's absolutely why it happened. LeBron trying to be the main character in this story once again, bro, you're not the main character this time. Like that's the Nuggets. That's Nikola Jokic. This is about his rise. This is about who he is. And I think that a lot of folks, especially in national media, were not willing to go that route. Like the main character was the Lakers. The main character was LeBron. And they've been relying on that for so long, 20 years, in fact, that they have not been able to pivot to other people to be able to talk about, oh, wait, you're not the main character right now. And they didn't fully acknowledge that until it was actually done. And even still, like talking about retirement and whatnot. So I think that that's probably my biggest gripe, is that Denver has never been the main character in its own story. They've never had an opportunity to do that. This is the first time where you can actually say that the Nuggets are the main character in the NBA. And it feels like everybody's kind of late to that party. But again, we're local. Like we see that and we have appreciated that. And it's not a surprise that we're early on that party. I don't think we were early, though. I think that we were properly assessing it and everybody else was just late.
We've never thought that the Nuggets were a title team outside of this season. And then when they got Aaron Gordon March 25th, 2021 for when they went 8-0, that's the only time. So it's not like we've been like in this place where like this team is clearly the best team in the world. And even me, as much as I love Joker, I didn't say Joker was the best player in the world until probably midway through last season. So like even I was trying to be like, all right, he needs to earn his way up that ladder a little bit. But Ryan, if another player in NBA history averaged 28, 15, and 12 in a sweep on the way to the finals, there would be no other story. There wouldn't be another story. 28, 15, and 12. There wouldn't be another story told on television except about this player.
No, I'm with you. The reason for that, obviously, is they don't know how to talk about Jokic. They hadn't known how to talk about Jokic because they hadn't done the work, and that's part of it. That's just what this is all about. And like we could talk about Lisa Salters, we could talk about Chris Mannix, we could talk about so many people and their actual takes on. Oh, I haven't even really watched this guy before. That's crap. Like it just is. Like you should be invested in this player because he is probably going to end up being the face of the NBA at some point. And it's going to be an interesting transition for a lot of folks where they don't know how to talk about him. They don't know how to cover him because he's not giving them free content with interviews.
Right. Yeah, which is fine though. Like Harrison talked about this with Chris Mannix. Jokic doesn't grant a lot of one-on-one interviews, but Harrison said, like, we, DNVR, we did the work. We went to Serbia, we talked to his people, so we got the stories about Joker without having to talk directly to him because we were passionate about it and we wanted to know. So, which is why, Ryan, you've been on the case for years, which is why you've done such a great job, which is why Adam, Harrison, Brendan, and then Superstar Dev, D-Line, Matt Moore, Katie Wingy, Romy, Jenna Garcia, Chris, everyone, which is why all those people have done an exceptional job covering this team because you all care, you all leaned in, and you all did the work that needed to be done in order to make the stories be what they were.
Think about how much work had to go into that too. Like Denver, like part of Chris Mannix's argument with Vic and Chris Dempsey on the radio was that because they're not on TV, like how much work did we have to do when we didn't actually get to rely on the fact that Denver wasn't on TV? Like we had to go and be boots on the ground in a lot of cases and like have to get some of these extra stories and do a little bit of extra work. And like the TV networks aren't making it any easier for anybody. Comcast isn't making it any easier. So like there's a lot of that. And like it's not like Denver's on national TV a ton. So you don't exactly get those opportunities. How many times do you think I illegally streamed the Nuggets? There's a lot. There's a lot of times. So it's just, I don't think everybody fully appreciated the work that had to go into this. And to be able to cover this team accurately, I feel really proud of that as a local Nuggets media member because there wasn't anybody helping out. It was us and that was it. That was it. Nobody else is doing this work. Right.
And then too, Chris brought up this idea that, when you're talking to Chris Dempsey and the Vic Lombardi, that somehow the biggest story in Denver is not the title run. It's the fact that the Nuggets you can't watch the Nuggets on television because of the Comcast and altitude dispute, which is ridiculous because we've been in this for 4 years. So you think we should be dwelling on something for 4 years? And when this whole conversation is about billionaires lining their pockets, so I'm supposed to pocket watch these billionaires every single day? What? I have no power over that. And matter of fact, we've been dealing with this since the 2018-19 season, basically. So there is no like blaming the fans or blaming local writers who did pieces on this, who have talked about this. But then what they did was they came up with a solution to offer people counters. Hey, if you can't watch the game this way, DMVR, they try to get television networks set up. They try to get
open up a freaking bar. Like,
they open up a bar.
Like, that's a crazy thing. Like, hey, here's a hub for Nuggets fans to be able to celebrate and watch Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets. Like, that's a cool freaking thing to do. And that's not covered enough in general. Like, everybody wants to, like, Chris is just, he's punching down in a lot of ways. And it was very frustrating to watch because everybody has done the freaking work. Everybody has done this. And it's just, it is very frustrating to watch somebody like that who has no idea what they're talking about act like it is okay for national media to not talk about Denver.
Yeah, and again, like, what are we like? Again, Ryan. Again, I know the NFL and NBA are different, but Ryan, you watch every Patrick Mahomes game you can. He's in Kansas City. I love Joe Burrow. He's in Cincinnati. I like watching Josh Allen. He's in Buffalo. Lamar Jackson, one of my favorite players in the world. He's in Baltimore. Like, and even Saquon Barkley played for the Giants. The Giants, they suck. I'm watching Saquon Barkley. I'm going to watch him. And again, you could say it's fantasy football. It's the NFL package, the Sunday ticket. There are so many options, but I never look at a team and like, they're playing in Cincinnati. I'm not about to watch Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. What do you mean? I'm tuning in, bro. I want to see good players. So you're telling me that you can't somehow create a storyline about the best player in a top 10? As a matter of fact, Adam talked about this with, I think, Bomani Jones. By the way, if you haven't seen that episode. So let me tell this. There's only been one time I've ever been jealous of Adam Modis. And it was when I watched him talk to Bomani Jones. Because I love Bomani. He's one of my favorite people.
Fantastic.
In entertainment and television. Excellent. Wonderful writer. And one of the things they talked about was, like, we don't want this to be Tim Duncan all over again. Because the NBA messed up. I don't care what nobody says. You didn't do a good job of marketing Tim Duncan. So Tim Duncan, arguably a top 5 player ever, and you didn't do a good enough job telling his story and talking about that team. Hey, bro. And then on top of that, Jokic is exciting. He's like a Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Zach Randolph incarnate. Like, he does all of these things. Bro, just tell the story. You have a generational, possibly top 10 player ever. Matter of fact, let me tell y'all something, because Ryan ain't going to say this, and he can't say it. I can say it. You know what Shannon Sharp said on Undisputed the other day? That Nikola Jokic could end up going down as the best white player in NBA history, and I fully agree. Fully agree. You know how many good white boys have been in the NBA? Starting with Larry, having Jerry West, having Steve Nash in the NBA. Bruh, I fully believe that because Jokic is like that, bruh. So you're telling me you could be watching a generational top 10 player ever and you don't want to tell his story? Man, watch out, bro. I'll do it. Then I'll do it. That's what I'm saying. If you're not going to do it, then get out the way. Shoot, send us the money. Send it to Brian. He has an account. He has an address. Give him your routing number and your checking, and then you get it done. You'll do a piece a week.
I love it. I love it. No, it's like we definitely deserve this moment, and is why I want to bask in it. It's why I want to be able to enjoy it, because there has been so much punching down on the Nuggets and kind of local coverage, and you guys don't really matter. And like, I think that we've got a great group here, and we deserve this. We deserve this moment for sure. And it's gonna be really interesting to see if Jokic can carry us all through, because there's one guy.
You know what? I'm so excited because you know what's gonna happen. I'm gonna continue this, Ryan. Just like Larry Bird. Larry Bird chose Charles Barkley one time that, why did you put this white guy on me whenever they have a white guy guard Larry Bird? Because that was like his thing in the 80s. He was cooking everybody. You know what's going to happen? They're going to put, like, I don't know, Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero's going to come back for the series or something like that. And then Jokic is going to look at Jimmy Butler like, why do you got this white guy on?
Don't forget my guy Cody Zeller, man. Like, hey, you at least got to get a big body out there. My guy Cody.
That's what Jokic probably said to Jock Landale last series, bro. Oh, bro.
Why do they keep putting white guys on me, man? It's just so weird. I love it.
I love the NBA, man. So many stories, bro.
On that note, hey, let's take a final break. When we come back, we're going to talk really briefly about Celtics-Heat tonight. Just there's big game, obviously, for both of those teams, and like it could be big for the Nuggets too. So we will talk about that in just a little bit. But first, actually, let's just go to a quick break. When we come back, we will discuss Celtics-Heat. We'll be right back. Oh, see, I thought that there was a commercial here that I could go to, but there's not. So we're just going to go. We're back. Pickaxe and Roll. Ryan Blackburn here with Swipa. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Got a nice pumping show on this Saturday morning and Saturday afternoon. Swipa, really appreciate you stopping in and being able to share.
By the way, the Milwaukee Bucks are planning to hire Toronto Raptors assistant Adrian Griffin. Adrian's a very good coach, bro.
Yeah, I mean, that's one where – like him getting away from Toronto after, like they probably should have hired him if we're being honest. Like that's right. I don't know. Does Toronto have a coach right now? Because they fired
no, no, they're still looking.
They didn't elevate Griffin. That's wild to me. Like that should have been your guy. But maybe they know something that we don't. I guess, or maybe Griffin was like, I don't know what this roster is going to look like. Let me go pair up with Giannis.
Yeah, I mean, Pascal plus OG plus Fred's a free agent. Gary's a free agent. They got Jakob Poeltl and then obviously Scotty Barnes. I mean, it's a good foundation. I just don't know what the ceiling is for that. Yeah,
always a little bit concerning on that front, and I felt like I was on the right side of that when talking about them initially, but it doesn't matter. Let's go to. Actually, I mean, it is going to be interesting to see what Griffin could do with Giannis, though. That'll be. That group still has some concerns. Like Middleton's a free agent, Brook Lopez is a free agent. Like, what is that going to have? But
they're old and they're slow. They are old and slow. They need to get a lot faster, a lot more dynamic. They need more offensive firepower too. I'm telling you, Drew Holiday going 9 of 21 in the playoffs and can 5 of 15 and all that other stuff. Man, that has to. They can't do that anymore. They can't keep doing that.
They need an actual scorer, like somebody who can handle that pressure a little bit better.
Well, Giannis is a 10 on offense, so he'll get right back to that come next year.
Good thing they have a 10 on both sides of the floor. That's okay. Let's talk about Celtics-Heat really quick. Obviously, the Celtics went down 3-0, stormed back now. It feels like they have all the momentum. Feels like they've got all of the juice heading into Miami for Game 6, but it is in Miami. It is in a situation now where you don't know what's going to happen with Celtics-Heat. I don't know what's going to happen with Celtics-Heat. I've got some ideas on what's ultimately going to happen, but the one thing that really stood out to me just watching this last game was Jimmy Butler was very passive. Jimmy Butler only took 10 shots in a game where you probably had to win it. Now, you didn't have to because you've got a couple more chances to actually get it done. And that's where my mind went when it came to how aggressive he's going to be tonight. I think he's going to take like 25 shots and it'll be a little bit different from this last time, but I don't know. Looked a little weird, looked a little passive, not necessarily feeling
I think the Heat have to close it out tonight. So I think Jimmy's going to go supernova.
He's going to try. And obviously he's capable. Like what he's been able to do these playoffs, like he's probably been the second best player, but I don't know.
Been good.
Jokic and then everybody else. Like I don't know who.
Well,
who
again, remember it was Jimmy, but then the problem was Tatum in this series has outplayed Jimmy. So again, the only people that say Jimmy Butler, they're just trying to be trendy. It's just like that's just a trendy pick. I'm not a Nike guy. I want to work for a big baller brand. It's just kind of one of those things.
Puma, let's go. No, it's going to be interesting to see what actually goes down here. It feels like the Heat are dropping like flies. I don't know what Gabe Vincent's status is for this game. Like, do you know if he's healthy and ready to go tonight?
I think he's going to play tonight. I'm pretty sure Gabe Vincent is in line to play.
Yeah, and like
think about that roster. Like Gabe Vincent is a must play for you to win.
He rolled that ankle in Game 4. like in the fourth quarter, and then played in game 4. They sat him in game 5. I'm not surprised that they sat him, and I have to imagine that they like there had to be some calculations going on with Miami being like, okay,
Yeah, for sure.
we're not going to be able to get game 5. Let's go all out to try to get game 6. Let's rest Vincent in this one. Let's try to go all out in this particular one to get hot. Maybe Duncan Robinson hits 6 threes. Maybe Gabe
Could you
Vincent comes back.
imagine
And,
being the first team to give up an 0-3 lead in NBA history?
bro, that is sketchy stuff. But like, I mean, they're an 8th seed, so like, it's hard to really like punish them for that, you know? Like it sucks, but like this is the exact circumstance that it would take for a 3-0 lead to be broken.
Well, again, I'm expecting Miami wins tonight because I think they need to win tonight. Because if they don't win tonight, Game 7, Jason Tatum is a real thing. Like that's a real thing. So he's 5-1 in Game 7s in his career.
Pretty good.
He's pretty great.
The only one he lost was 2018 LeBron, and that was like,
Prime Bron. Yeah, one of his
season.
rookies. Yeah, rookie. So that was 17. So he got drafted in 2017. Yeah, 17-18, which is rookie year, and he ran into Prime Bron that maybe had his second best playoff run outside of that 2012 season.
Sure. Like it's just, I mean, Tatum's been great. Like when he actually acts like he's a great player. Like some of the shots that he'll take and some of the shots that he'll miss, they are so infuriating to watch. Like there are definitely times where I remember turning on last night's game during the second quarter, and they are already up, like Celtics already up 47-32 or something around there. And Heat go zone, and the Celtics just move the ball around the perimeter. There's no cutting, there's no driving, there's no desire to get to the rim. And like at one point they get a transition opportunity, and Tatum's just like, sure, I'll yeet this from 27 feet at 19 on the clock. That seems fine. That seems reasonable. And obviously he missed, but like it's going to be really interesting to see how those two teams like interact in this particular game, because I feel like Jimmy has not been that dude in these last 2 games for sure. And it feels like Tatum and Brown and Marcus Smart especially have really figured some stuff out, but we'll just have to see.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we'll see. At this point in the playoff and in the series, it's not even about X's and O's. It's just execution. Like you have to execute your game plan, and they need to get it done. It's just really that simple. The Heat need to win. If they don't, the Celtics are going to win that series, I think, in Boston on Monday. But if it goes 7, that means they get 2 days off before the NBA Finals. Whoever wins that series.
Yeah, that's a tough thing to do. Like no doubt. Like for any of those teams, and they will be. Like, especially if it's the Celtics, like if they had to come back from 3-0, just think about how mentally and physically exhausting that actually is.
And then you got to go play the Nuggets. Oh yeah, that's a lot. Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, like I mean, there's no doubt that they can win. Like the Celtics could win a series against Denver. There's no doubt that they can do it. Like I don't think that they would, especially kind of with where this is at. But I just think that Denver has that look in their eye right now in terms of a team that's actually like seriously capable of doing this thing. And like the Heat, it's going to take a while. Like I'm going to need to see it before I believe it with them.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, the Nuggets are very confident in a respectable way. They've been saying that they got 4 more since the series ended. They've been saying they have 5 more, 8 more. They are just on a mission. They are not content with anything other than winning a championship. So a dangerous team, a fresh team with a mission, with a purpose, with the best player, and maybe the second best player on the court. I mean, that's a lot. That's going to be a lot to overcome.
Yeah, I'm looking.
Oh, if Jamal Murray outplayed Jason Tatum or Jimmy Butler in the series, man.
I'm going to be insufferable.
My end of the year rankings are going to go crazy. They are going to be so upset.
You're going to see Jamal
Murray at 12. Wait, what?
Oh my God! Like Jokic is going to be at 1. Murray's going to be at like 18.
Gap.
Oh yeah, one with a bullet. Like there ain't no way. It's. Oh my God, man.
Well, I have a question. So for Jamal Murray, because let's say the 20th best player in the NBA this year was Domantas Sabonis, like between because
How is that the exact same name that I thought of? Like in that, like that's the exact same guy that I thought of. Like
wavelength, bro. Wavelength.
wild.
That's who we are. That's who we are. Jamal Murray better than Domantas Sabonis.
I think so. Like,
what do you mean you think so?
No, like I think there are reasons to believe that like if you're talking about regular season versus playoffs, that a guy like Sabonis could prop up a team in the regular season better than a guy like Jamal can. But I mean, I'm a Jamal guy, so like I'm going to talk about the playoffs. I'm going to talk about 16-game players, and there's no doubt in my mind that Jamal's a 16-game guy, and we're still waiting on that with Sabonis for sure.
So what about do you think he'd even playoff regular season? Where do you have De'Aaron Fox with Jamal this year?
I mean, De'Aaron definitely had a better regular season, and he was starting that with the playoffs before breaking his hand. So like, I could still have De'Aaron above Jamal, but like they're in the same tier. There's no doubt. Like, I think that before the season started, both of those guys, you'd probably a reasonable person would have those guys in the 30s or so. Yeah, and that's like just not a surprise at all that they would ultimately be ranked in the same tier now. But they're just players that were underrated. And like,
sure, if Jamal goes out and has another 30-point series, 35-5 series, it's gonna get real ugly. The Western Conference Finals and the finals. So basically, it's him and Kobe in the Western Conference Finals and the finals. That's what it will come down to. It'd be like him and Kobe as far as guard performances.
Dude, it's a fun combo. It is like, and like I would take. I mean, let's talk about Donovan Mitchell. Let's talk about like Devin Booker. I think has elevated himself into that top 10 conversation, but like Donovan Mitchell has not. Like Donovan Mitchell fell back to earth, and like Darius Garland, I had people ranking Darius Garland ahead of Jamal Murray. Like, are you freaking high? Like, there's no way in my mind.
Well, I thought the craziest one was, for me, and it still is, the Jalen Brunson. You know, they're like, well, look what he did as number one. I don't care. I don't care at all. If you gave Jamal Murray the same wheels and like, well, he's playing next to Joker. What people don't understand is the Nuggets have had an egalitarian system for the last several seasons until Joker took a scoring jump because he had to. But before that, they were all flat, because they just didn't have like a 1A, 1B, or 2. Like, they just weren't doing that. They were just playing basketball on the same plane. But as they've gotten better, the system's got more defined. So I think if you gave Jamal Murray back that year and a half and they built a system, I think he'd be a 24 points per game scorer in the regular season already.
There's no doubt in my mind. Like, that's just who he is. Like, he can absolutely do that. And anybody that says differently, I think is like, they've got their head in their sand on this thing.
Well, by the way, I think the last 40 games of the year, Ryan, I do think that Jamal Murray averaged like 23, 7, and 5. I think the last 40 or so games. So it's not like Jamal wasn't already doing that, you know. So I don't know, man. I just think there's this narrative about Jamal. Let me see. Last 40 games.
You're totally right about it. Like in 2021, like the year after the bubble, he averaged 21 a night, but during the latter portion of that season, he was at about 24, 25 on similar efficiency to the bubble. Like he was doing the thing. He was absolutely doing the thing in that state, and then actually got hurt. And he just has always been that guy that's like, he starts off a little bit slow and then picks it up as the season goes on. And now we're seeing him pick it up in the biggest moments. And it's just a great thing to be able to watch and to be able to really fully appreciate. I think that you're right. Like top 25 guaranteed. Other people might decide that they want to have other like primary ball handlers ahead of him, things like that. But like the list is shrinking. In terms of guys that I actually want on my team when it comes to a pressure-packed playoff moment. Like
can you overvalue playoff performance?
Say it again.
Can you overvalue playoff performance? Because I think I ended the year last year. I think I had Jason Tatum last year. Jason Tatum 6, Kevin Durant 8, and I think I had Jimmy Butler 9, including playoffs. So if you can rise that far from regular season to playoffs, and I think ostensibly you could make an argument that Jamal Murray. I heard somebody say the other day on the volume, he thinks that it wasn't Jason, it was the two other kids that they have on there, kind of sound a little similar. They one of them think that he might put Jamal Murray top 15. I think that's a little high, but I think that's an argument, like it's conversation.
No, like I'm the strongest Jamal guy you're going to find. And I don't think he's top 15, but because of what's like you have to be that dude in the regular season. And at least to a degree, like it can't be 20-6. It has to be 24-7. It has to be 25-6, something like that. And like he's capable of doing that. And I think he's going to see a big statistical jump next year. But like I also know that Denver's got a lot. It's so funny. We've had thoughts on Game 6 of Celtics-Heat up here for this entire conversation.
It's all been Jamal.
I'll take Jamal over Jaylen Brown for sure, though. Like that's one that I'll definitely take.
Yeah, I think that's out of the way. You know, and all that two-way value stuff. Jaylen Brown will be getting cooked.
Dude, he's horrible defensively.
It's not been great. I wanted Jaylen Brown in 2016 in that draft. I wanted him actually. He was the first pick off my board for the Nuggets that year because they didn't have a small forward. Because they had Emmanuel Mudiay. So I was like, oh, maybe Emmanuel can throw to something. Man, shout out Emmanuel, who I ranked as the 30th best starting point guard in the NBA on Denver Stiffs. That was I got some notes. I got some notes. We went through some stuff. We went through Nicholas Tedeschi in the 2002 NBA draft. I think like number 4 overall. We got Nene Hilario at like 5 or something like that, like something crazy. And then we passed on Amari Stoudemire in '96. We got LaFrenz over like Paul Pierce and them. And then like, bro, we went through it. And then we went through Emmanuel Mudiay. Well, I thought out of SMU, a 6'5" point guard, ostensibly could be a two-way player in 2015. I was like, oh, he looks like he could be a guy. And then you went in, it's like, whoa, this is not what I thought. And I was shocked that Jamal Murray was sitting there at 7. Shocked. He was a 20-point scorer at Kentucky as a freshman.
That's hard. That's hard to do. And people just don't they didn't fully appreciate it at the time. And like to be a 20-point scorer as a freshman at like an SEC school is just like, it's nuts. It's just flat out nuts. And like he was that dude.
He was the first player in Kentucky history to do that, to be a 20-point scorer as a freshman.
And think about all the freshmen that have come through. Like that's a lot. That's wild. So really cool to see. You have any predictions for tonight?
Nah, yeah, Heat have to win. If they don't, they're getting packed up probably in Game 7. So I think the Heat win tonight.
I think the Heat win too. I'm gonna go down with the ship believing in Jimmy. Like I think that he's going to put up like 40, and we will see. We'll actually see what he does. But it's a crazy, crazy time that we live in where an 8 seed could actually like do this. But like Celtics are putting the fear of God into them. That's for sure.
Right. Well, again, it's all 3-point shooting, and I think that's the ceiling and the floor for the Celtics. They don't make threes. They're not beating you. They do make threes. They have a chance to beat you. That's really what all their stuff comes down to. No
doubt. But we've got plenty to discuss going forward with these finals, man. I am looking forward to the opportunity to be able to talk about this with you. The final, I think Thursday is Game 1. We'll have plenty of time to discuss before then. Like maybe we'll do an episode before then, just previewing Game 1 of whatever series that this is. But I know we're going to do a Denvengers episode as well early next week, folks. So make sure to check out that. Swipa and I, we are so excited for this. Make sure to hit that like button on the way out. Swipa, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Man, I'm just excited for basketball. Great time to be an NBA supporter. It should be a fun week, y'all.
Gonna be great. Nuggets fans, enjoy this. Enjoy this shit because this is what it's all about. You get to enjoy it for the very first time. Don't waste it. Don't waste the opportunity. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in on this episode of Weekends with Swipa. We'll talk to you guys very soon.